Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Backstage Spotlight. Today we have the amazing Stuart Rogers. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice little day off today, so lovely to chat to you.
Brilliant. I've caught you on a day off. I mean, how lucky am I?
Well, yeah, they're coming thick and fast, hopefully, over Christmas, so get some time off over Christmas.
Lovely, lovely. So, would you just like to introduce yourself and say what you're doing at the moment in the industry?
Yeah, hi, I'm Stuart Rogers, and I am currently a choreographer.
Fantastic. How did it start for you? Let's take it all the way back to your childhood. Were you a energetic child? Did you always like performing, being in that sort of role when you were younger?
Yeah, I don't know if I was like super energetic, but I was always creative. I started dancing when I was 5 years old at
Wow.
my local dance. I was actually really lucky because I live in a little village in the middle of nowhere. Well, I did live in a village in the middle of nowhere, and the dance school that we actually had there was actually a really good one. So I really lucked out. It was
Brilliant.
Dixonwood School of Dance. Shout out. And I started there when I was five. It just started really because a friend of mine went dancing. So I said to my mum and dad, "Can I go?" And they were thrilled. They encouraged it straight away. So. Yeah, so
Fantastic.
started dancing when I was five and stayed there till I was 16.
That's great. And when was the point that you realized that you wanted it to be your career?
Honestly, I think after my first lesson, I
Oh,
can't remember a time in my life when this wasn't the goal. This wasn't like what I was planning to be, which as I've got older, actually, I've realized is a very unique thing. Like my sister has kids and they're all growing up and I'm always like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And they're like, oh, I'm not sure, I don't know. And I'm like, oh God. And then my family reminds me, like, actually, knowing what you want to do from the age of five is actually quite a unique situation, you know? So,
sure.
yeah, I think I was bitten by the bug immediately. I loved it. I loved my teacher. She brought out the absolute best in me. She was so passionate, or is, school is still going. She was so passionate and allowed me to express my passion for it. So
That's
I've got a
so
lot to thank
nice.
her for it.
Yeah, lovely. I think it is really important when you do have a good teacher because they do pass on their love for it and it inspires you. They're like the first person that inspires you because that's what you're used to. That's like your bubble.
Absolutely. And she nurtured me so much. I think she could see from day one, like how that I had a gift for it, that I was passionate about it, that I loved doing it. And she just latched onto that and just nurtured me through my whole youth, really.
Yeah, really nice. So when you got to the age of 16, how did you navigate that audition period for colleges?
Well, my dad and well, my parents helped me a lot. Like back in my day, there wasn't online, so you couldn't do a lot of research that
Of
way. We
course.
kind of set off prospectuses, like an old-fashioned little booklet about about each club. Um, and did a bit of research that way. Obviously, we weren't super affluent, so we had to pick. You obviously have to pay for your auditions. So
Mm,
by getting those perspectives, that we could narrow it down. I ended up auditioning at, I think it was about, well, I had five auditions, but I cancelled the last one.
mm.
Um, and yeah, and I also did a couple of summer schools as well, at Performers College. I went to Performers College 2 years on the trot and did summer schools there. So one year I sacrificed a family holiday. I said I won't go on the holiday because I'd rather go to, I'd
No
rather go to
way.
summer school.
I bet your family were
Yeah.
happy about that.
They, they just let me do what I want, really. They knew that there was no stopping me, really. Once I've got my mind
Oh.
on something, then that's it. There's no turning me off of it. So they just kind of gave into it, I think, really.
So did
So
you
yeah, so
move? Oh,
then
sorry. You carry on.
go on.
I was going to ask,
No,
so
no, it's
did
fine, go
you
on.
fully move out of home at 16 and how did you find that?
Yeah, I did. I did move away at 16. I'm one of the older ones in the year, so I did turn 17 like early on in
Yeah.
my first year. Um, so I did. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. It was just, I was like clamoring to go. I wanted to go away when I was like 11 to Sylvia Young or Italia Conti or
Yeah.
somewhere like that. And my mum and dad were like, absolutely never in a million years. We're not losing our son that early. And I'm so glad now that they didn't allow any of that because I think sometimes if you go into that intense training too early, you can get jaded early, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know
And I
what you
think some
mean.
like a negative effect on like your adult career because you're all a bit like been in the business for 25 years by the time you're 16 kind of thing.
That's so funny.
So so I think I'm really glad now they didn't go, even though at the time, I was desperate to go. But now as I look back, like my sister's middle child is 16, and to me, he seems so young. And
Mm.
to imagine him in my sister's house or like my sister's care um seems yeah, just crazy young to move away. But at the time, for me, it was just like, we have to go. I have to go now. I have to do it now. I've waited long enough. And, my parents, my mum was like, oh, because I did well at school. So my parents were like, my mum especially was like, maybe you could stay and do your A levels, something to fall back on, which obviously would be the sensible choice.
You were like, no.
But I think in the end, they just were like, we have to let him go. He has to go now. I was chomping at the bit.
Yeah, it's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I couldn't wait any longer.
And not. Do you remember your first day going into college?
Yes, I
And
was
how, what are
absolutely
the memories from that first day?
terror. I was terrified. Um, it was, and I lived in Longmead, which is like a 20-25 minute walk away. Because if you go, I don't know if it's still the same, but when I went, if you went at 16, you had to stay with a landlady. You weren't
Yeah,
allowed to
yeah,
move into like a
I
flat.
think it's still like that.
Yeah, so I stayed with a landlady in Longmead with two other boys from my year. And the walk from the house to college was like 20, honestly, it felt like about 3 hours walking there. I was just getting more and more terrified the closer I got to it. Um, and you go for those 3 days, first years on their own, like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday or something it was
Yeah,
when I
like the
was there. And
induction. Yeah.
yeah, and kind of do all of your kind of audition stuff again. And I was terrified. I thought, I didn't know if it was like the Royal Ballet. I thought, God, if I don't do well in these 3 days, maybe I'll be assessed out or something. Maybe they'll change their minds. So I was like terrified, absolutely terrified the whole time. But
It,
I think I take that through my career. Most of the time, I'm terrified. I'm always worried that something's going to go wrong. So it's like a pattern of behavior.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it is scary and it's because you put yourself out there so much, it's like a personal art. Like with music and stuff, it's it is coming from you, but it's an instrument. Whereas like when you sing, when you dance, it's like your body. If you get criticized like that, can be tough, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like I said, I was from the middle of nowhere. There was people like who had trained at the Royal Ballet. There was people who had all this who'd been in West End shows, like as kids and stuff. And I was very like in awe. And I remember watching a jazz class of third years through the window in the first week, and I saw these two girls, actually Jane McMurtry and Hayley Flaherty. You probably will have them on your podcast at some time. I remember them going across the floor doing a kick exercise, thinking, I have never seen dancers like that. I've never seen dancers that good, and it was like so eye-opening and so kind of humbling. Um, but yeah, it was scary, but I mean, I say it's terrorizing, but it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. Honestly felt like I'd finally found like home,
So
like-minded
nice.
people, all passionate about
Yeah.
the same thing, rather than being the odd one out where you come from. You're amongst like a whole class of people who are passionate about the same things as you, who love the same things as you do, So it actually felt just wonderful to finally be there.
Yeah, really nice. Do you have like a moment or a memory where you felt really challenged? And what was that like the first time you thought, ah, this is going to be tough?
Um, at Lanes, do you mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, there was a certain ballet teacher who was not a fan of me.
Oh no.
Um, I think it was like it's very old school. He's actually not alive anymore, so he was old at the
Oh,
time when I
yeah.
and I think I was very liked by the teachers. I was, very successful at lanes, and I think he kind of decided to be the person who wasn't going to give me like an easy ride or whatever. Not that I did, but
Yeah.
I think he was kind of
Giving you a hard time.
and yeah, and I really felt like, but for me, I kind of love that because I'm like I will prove people wrong. So like I took it as a challenge. He definitely didn't make life easy for me in his classes. He made me really work for his attention. He made me really kind of, work for everything that I got and wasn't full of compliments. But, I think all these experiences, working with these different teachers and being in this, they kind of prepare you for the industry, for working with various directors, choreographers, casting directors, etc. You have to kind of work out what's your way in
Mm,
with those people, you
yeah,
know? So I'd say he was a challenge, but on the whole, I do have to say I had the most amazing time, and I was very, very fortunate with my time at Lanes.
that's great. What's your favorite moment when you look back at college life?
Um, um, I'd say two things, both involving the same person, actually. There used to be a jazz teacher called Barbara Evans, who
Yes.
is kind of the Lanes legend. I credit her with the dancer that I became and a lot of the choreographer that I am now, actually. Um, on those 3 days at Lanes, when the first years go for their first 3 days, on
Yeah.
the third day, my name went up on a board, and I thought I was being assessed out. So, because obviously we didn't have emails and that in that time, so my name went up on a board, and someone came to me and said, "Oh, your name's up on that board over there," and I was like, my heart just absolutely dropped.
Oh no.
Um, and so I went to the office. I was like, "Oh, my name's on the board out there. I don't know what that means." And they're like, "Oh, you have to go up to the agency." And um, and then on my third day there, I was offered Barbara Evans pantomime.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
that was kind of a kind of baptism of fire, I think, into Lanes because it put a lot of attention on me from a lot of other students. But it was just I was so overwhelmed. I couldn't believe it. And I didn't really know at the time kind of what a big deal it was until I got
Mm.
into the term of college and was like, oh, she is the one. Do you know what I mean? Um, and so that was kind of amazing memory. And then my other really amazing memory was um, in my third year, I had a solo in one of her like epic pieces that is like, 4 parts long. And and one of the parts of that was a solo. And we went into studio two just on our own. She closed the blinds and she was like, I don't want anyone to see this. I want it just to be me and you, and let's just create something together. And, it felt like such a special moment between the two of us because by that point in my third year, I'd actually worked with her professionally quite a lot.
Yeah.
And we had a really close relationship in college. Actually, in college, she would treat me like any other student. She was very, very professional like that. But like we had a relationship outside of college. And just that time with her in the studio, creating something together, because I always wanted to be a choreographer. So going through a creative process with her and kind of coming up with something collaborative together for my final summer show was kind of really, really special, I think.
Yeah, that's really lovely. It's nice to get inspiration from other people's creative processes as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have to like in this industry, you have to just keep listening, keep learning all the time, keep paying attention to what everyone is doing, even the bad stuff. Like,
Yeah.
if people are doing something rubbish, then you're like, right, I need to make sure I don't do that, or
A hundred
and equally
percent.
with the
Yeah.
yeah.
So what would you say your creative process was when you come to creating a piece?
Well, a piece or to be honest, I work in so many different areas of the industry choreographically that each thing has a different kind of process.
Yes.
Um, if I'm creating a piece, if I was creating a piece for Lanes, then it's music first. Or I'll just listen to music, like all different types of music, try and find something that speaks to me, that I feel inspired by, that I can see a vision for, like an overall concept or vision for the music. Um, if it's a musical, then read the script first. I always read the script first and see where the musical numbers come in the show and where we need to get to and from within each number, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like where the story is at the start of the number and where the story has to be by the end of the number. And then it would be a conversation with the director, find out what their vision is for the show, put my two pence in and say, oh, well, I think we could do this as well, and kind of come to some kind of balance on all of our ideas to create the best thing. Um, and then I would go back to the music, listen to the music over and over and over. I really, really listen to the music a lot. I like to know what all the instruments sound like, what all the kind of like nuances in the vocals, or sorry, can you hear my dog?
I actually cannot.
Oh, okay, good. I'll close the door just in case. Um, yeah, I like to know what all the music sounds like, what all parts of the music sound like. So the vocal, the instruments, all those different things, so that I can then reflect that within the movement.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and then if it's something with a pop artist or whatever, like at the moment, I'm working on Self-Esteem's third album. I think I'm allowed to say that. Um, so I listen to the album. Um, And as I'm listening to each song, I just have a notepad in front of me and I write down lyrics that stand out to me, or how the song makes me feel, or like adjectives about the song or stuff like that. So I just have like an album's worth of notes
Yeah.
for each song. Then talk to her about what those songs mean to her,
Mm.
and then kind of create from there, basically. So it's kind of a different process depending on what kind of
On
thing
the job.
I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, for sure. If there was someone you could collaborate with in the future, someone as a choreographer, someone that you've never worked with before, who would you want to work with?
Oh, good question. Um, do you know who? I actually don't know. I can't remember the name of the company, but do you remember that viral dance video that Gautier, somebody that I used to know?
Yes.
It's like it's like the CDK company. I'm going to say it wrong and it's going to be insulting to them, and I really don't want that. But I can't remember. It's like a dance crew or something, or like I don't actually know a lot about it, but like that movement is so inspiring. They did all the Troye Sivan videos as well, um, and they did like the Pride Calvin Klein campaign. Um,
Yes.
I love I love what they're doing with movement. It feels a lot like what I like to do, which is combine like loads of different styles to make one new style. Like it kind of feels like contemporary, but kind of commercially streety, contemporary jazz
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I think what they're doing movement-wise is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's great. What's the piece of choreography that you're the most proud of that you've ever created? If you can answer that, because I that is very broad.
Oh God. I think I think this isn't necessarily for what the actual choreography was. It's not, I don't think it's like the my best steps or choreography, but Self-Esteem's I tour this all the time tour, which was like her most recent tour for her Prioritize Pleasure album. Um, I think that might be my most proud thing because I actually couldn't be there for the last couple of days of rehearsals and the opening night because I was in America. So my assistant was there and I didn't get to see opening night. Um, So when I got back from America, like about a week or so after it had opened, they were in Brighton. So I went there. And this live show was unlike any other pop live show I've ever been to or seen. Like the reaction from the audience was so visceral, and it really felt like people connected with what they were doing on stage. It felt like people were so emotionally engaged with the performance. And like I couldn't stop crying, and I'm not a crier. Like I really don't cry, but I literally just had like tears falling down my face because like to be such a big part of what they were connecting to, and to be in amongst that feeling of people being together and feeling something as one,
Mm.
and connecting with the lyrics and connecting with the movement and how the movement made them feel and what they were doing on stage, was such a unique and special experience. And I thought, God, I've actually done that. No, not just me, obviously, but
Yeah, no, for
I'm
sure.
part of doing that for those people. And so I think, and that concert is a place for people who don't, who have been othered or don't necessarily feel like they always have somewhere they can go where they feel understood. And
Mm.
so being there amongst all those people who felt like they had a place to belong, and I've been a part of creating that place, was amazing. Like it was so emotional. Um, so I think that is probably my proudest thing. Um, Not necessarily the choreography itself, but being part of creating something like that.
Wow, yeah, that's so special. A great thing to have been a part of.
Yeah.
Sounds really, really good. Now let's talk more about auditions and being on that other side of the panel. When you are auditioning and looking for people to work with, what are the key things that you look for?
Good question. Well, I look for a lot of things. I mean, there's obviously there's always a certain amount of like technique that you look for and
Yes.
skill, and all of that kind of stuff is one side of it. Um, but for me, I feel like I really want someone. I feel like I want to know a little bit about the person by the way they've danced by the end
Mm.
of the audition. I feel like I want to have connected with them in some way. Um, because I feel a little bit like sometimes nowadays, younger dancers, you have so much access to things. So you can see other people dancing on their social media and stuff. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, I want to dance like her, or I want to dance like him, or I want to dance like that. So they end up kind of trying to do an imitated version of something that doesn't feel authentic to them,
Yes. Yeah.
because they like watching it.
Mm.
And what I really want to do, want people to come into the room and kind of just show me who they are as a dancer. Obviously, within the parameters of doing the choreography that I have set.
Of
But I
course.
think there's so many ways and nuances that you can add to that choreography that kind of show me who you are as an artist, like unashamedly, like, and not afraid to kind of throw caution to the wind and kind of show me who you are. Um, I think that's the most important thing for me, is that we don't try and give me what you think I want. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not trying to please me or anything. I actually want dancers to please themselves, because I want to be inspired by them. Like if I'm watching someone dance and I have a certain thing in mind, I could watch someone do the choreo and be like, oh, I've changed my mind. I want to do it like that. Do you know what I mean? Or, I want to be inspired by that. I want to have a group of dancers in the room who are going to make me better, who are
Yeah.
going to like inspire me to like try new things, do new things, use their individuality and individual
Mm.
skills, to make my work better. So I think it's having the bravery to commit to what you bring, what you
Yeah.
do.
Nice. Talking about inspiration, it's really nice that you get that inspiration from your dancers, and that collaborative process in the room as well is really important. But I wanted to ask you, who are your inspirations aside from the people you work with, like the people that are maybe perhaps in the industry or people who have come and gone in the past and left their mark in choreography and performance?
Okay, inspirations. Well, there's classic people always like Bob Fosse, Jerome Robbins. I think to have choreography that is timeless
Yeah.
is really inspiring to me. Um, and Fosse created a whole style of dance that is now a reference. Do you know what I mean? So that I find that really inspirational. Maybe there'll be a star one day that's like Rogers.
The Stuart Rogers.
It doesn't have quite the same ring to it as Fosse. Maybe I should.
Who
Um,
knows? Who knows?
and then through my growing up, there's definitely Barbara Evans is a huge
Yeah.
inspiration to me. Working with Matthew Bourne, his storytelling through dance, I think, is unmatched. As a director, as much as a choreographer, I definitely learned a lot from him. Um, yeah, I think they're my.
Nice. Yeah, it's nice to hear who inspires you and people in the industry at present because it just reminds you that it's been around for years, dancing, and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
what we do with it nowadays is just stemming from the
yeah.
creations that have been and gone, and it's just fantastic, I think, personally.
Yeah, and it's important to not look at the past as boring or like,
Of
oh,
course.
that's so like old school. Like I feel like old school has become like a bad thing, but I think there are bad things about being old school, don't get me wrong, but I think we need to kind of honor the past
Of
whilst
course.
also bringing newness and new stuff into the industry.
You
Sorry,
definitely.
can you hear my dog?
I really cannot.
He's really going berserk, but anyway.
Um, so if you could pick a show, like it could be a new show or it could be something that's been done for years and years to work on in the future, what would be your dream show to choreograph?
Okay. Well, dream show would be something that doesn't exist yet, I would
Oh,
say.
something new
Um,
then.
yeah, I want something new. I want something that doesn't have a blueprint already.
Yeah, you want
Um,
your name to be on it.
yeah, I want it to be something that is like undistinguished. I want to create the blueprint
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
of a show. So that would be my kind of annoying answer, is that it doesn't exist yet. But if there's shows that I would love to do, are cabaret.
Oh, yes.
We do a really good version of that. Um, a show that everyone says you should never do, but I feel like I'd love to do it anyway, is West Side Story, because
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
obviously the original is timeless, and you can watch that choreography today and it still be just absolutely
Current, yeah,
beautiful. But
yeah,
I would love to have a go at it and see what I could
definitely,
do. I'd say they would be
definitely.
my two the existing shows that I would like
Mm,
to do.
good ones. And who knows what the future holds? I mean, I think you're going to create a blueprint. You're gonna create a show, choreograph it. It's gonna have your name on it, and there's gonna be a style called the Rogers.
Yeah. Yeah, I just need a Hamilton or something, don't I? Just something like that. Just a
Yeah.
small little thing like Hamilton.
Exactly that. The last question I always ask my podcast guests is, can you nominate someone to come on the podcast and impart their knowledge, and I'll reach out to them and try and get them on?
Yes, so I did a bit of research and I've watched some podcasts. So I'm actually prepared for this question.
Great.
So my person would be Julie Atherton.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
she was, I don't know if you know, she was the original Kate Monster in Avenue Q in London. And well, she has an extensive career as long as your arm. And she's an actress and a director. And I think she has she's also one of my best friends, but um,
Side
I
note.
think she has such a uh, unique and interesting point of view on the industry and on work and on theatre. She's such a huge supporter of like new writing and new work. And honestly, I don't think there's many people that understand text and lyrics like she does. I've worked with her as a performer, and I also work with her as a director and choreographer. And just watching her work, I find it so inspirational. I think that she could impart some like really interesting nuggets of knowledge
Mm,
especially to young women
yeah,
um, going into the industry, and how to
nice.
navigate it, and how to kind of cross, because she's currently acting and currently directing, so she's kind of navigating kind of a dual career in a sense,
Yeah,
where I kind of stopped dancing so I could start choreography, but she's kind of running them both alongside each other, and I think that she would be a really interesting guest for you.
yeah, she sounds fantastic. I'll definitely reach out, so let her know that that
I
message
will.
is coming.
I will.
Oh, well, Stuart, it's been a pleasure to have you on and to chat to you. I hope that everyone listening has enjoyed. Take care. We'll see you soon and see everybody next week for the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Goodbye.